Hello everyone, welcome to Marketing Research. MKTG 457. This is Chapter 7, Survey Research. Let's talk about the survey research in this chapter. Okay. After this chapter, you should be able to define surveys and describe the different type of information that might be gathered in the survey. Okay. Identify sources of error in survey research. There are many different kinds of errors involved that might be involved. Okay, and summarize the ways researchers gather information through personal interviews, and know the advantages and disadvantages of conducting survey using personal interviews, telephone calls, smartphones, tablet, or PC. Okay? And appreciate the importance of pre-testing questionnaire. Okay? Describe ethical issues that arise in survey. Okay? In the introduction, let's talk about some terminologies here. Right? In a survey, respondents, we use the term respondents. Those are the people who answer your questions during the survey. Okay, you guys are gonna develop your own questionnaire, and all those people you invite, it could be your friends, family, classmates, whatever, or people you gather online that who answer your survey questionnaire, they are your respondents. Okay. A survey represents a way of describing public opinion by collecting primary data through communicating directly with the individual sampling units. Okay, yeah, we use survey to gather public opinion, of course, yeah, consumer opinion or marketing opinion. Okay? And it is primary data. Right? It is not secondary because you are collecting that. It's your primary data. Okay? And your sampling unit, in this case, is individual or respondent, who is your individual sampling units. You're directly in communication with them, okay? With each and every one of them. Okay? A sample survey. We normally use sample surveys because it's impossible to survey the entire population, right? You cannot survey the entire population. You can only do a sample, a small portion of that. So a sample survey is a formal term for a survey emphasizing the respondents' opinions presumably represent a sample of the larger population, larger target population's opinion. Yeah, we're hoping, right? And then you may ask the question, okay, if so, then how you select sample is going to be of critical importance, right? It is. Yeah, we'll get to that. Okay. So the type of information gathered using surveys. Okay, you can ask questions about the product use. Right? How do you use certain product, and how often do you use the product? Okay? Desirable features of a product. Okay? The web habits helps with the product development and advertising messages. Right? Survey gather information to assess consumer knowledge and awareness of products, brands, or issues, and to measure consumer attitudes, feelings, and behaviors. Okay? You can measure their feelings, attitudes, right? And also their behaviors. Okay? Certain aspects of surveys may be qualitative. Right? It could be qualitative data that you're collecting. And it could also be quantitative, mostly probably quantitative. Okay? Advantages and disadvantages of survey research. Let's talk about advantages. Advantages is quick. It may take a couple of days or a couple of weeks. In my case, my students normally take at most 2 months to conduct a survey. And it's inexpensive. Relatively say it's inexpensive, and it's quite efficient. It's an efficient way. Okay, and it's fairly accurate. Accurate if you done it right. Yeah, you do it right, it could be accurate. Okay, it's quite flexible. Okay, it's quite flexible. But there are disadvantages of survey research. What is you can have errors, which cause misleading results, and you could introduce or you can incur many different type of errors. Okay, let's talk about the errors. And this slide may be a little small, so just bear with me. Okay, here let's see on the left hand side is the yellow square, yellow box. That's your total error, all the errors combined, total error. That error could be coming from non-sampling systematic error or from sampling error. Sampling error versus non-sampling systematic errors. Let's look at the non-sampling systematic errors. Just have nothing to do with sampling, right? And what kind of errors or biases, right? First, there could be non-response error. What's non-response error? You survey someone, right? You survey your population, and the people who did not answer your questionnaire, they are non-respondent. And excuse me, and take a sip of water. So you're introducing error because those people did not respond. That's non-response error. Okay. For those people who did respond, there could be respondent error, right? Error introduced through those people for whatever reasons, right? And then there could be also response bias. Response bias, meaning someone may be biased, have a severe, biased opinion about the thing, about the issues that you have in mind or in your questionnaire, and it's just something you cannot avoid, right? In those response biases, right, response bias, there could be two situations. Could be deliberate falsification, and it could be unconscious misrepresentation, right? If it's unconscious misrepresentation, that means that someone answered it wrong, incorrectly, now knowing that they did so. That's understandable. It happens, right? We're human, right? And there could be also, bad enough, there could be deliberate falsification. They just falsify the numbers, falsify the answers. Is that possible? Oh, yes, it's possible. In the case of deliberate cause falsification, there could be what we call acquiescence bias. Acquiescence bias, because someone or someone that you're familiar with, or someone who is familiar with the situation or familiar with you, with the survey researchers, or you could introduce what we call acquiescence bias. There's also the extremity bias. Have you seen people in our society? Some of them just want to go to extremes, and they exaggerate. They either go to this extreme and that extremes. They would like to give extreme numbers, and they exaggerate too much. They go to the extremes, and that's extremity bias. That's a bias. There is also the social desirability bias. You ask them about the income, for example, and say they make, say, average American income is like, say, $45,000, but they feel like, I want to look good, I look better. I pretend I want to say that I'm making $100,000 a year instead of a true number of 45,000, right? So they have this social desire to exaggerate their income. That's social desirability bias. And then there's also the interviewer bias. If you ask someone to answer the questionnaire because of your presence, your influence, or your opinion, or your expectation, right? They may give you a wrong answer, incorrect answer, because of your presence, the presence of the interviewer. Okay, that's the interviewer bias. All these will contribute to either conscious, deliberate, or let's say not conscious, let's say deliberate falsification or unconscious misrepresentation. And both of these will feed into response bias. They responded, but there's bias, right? So all these will feed into non-sampling systematic error, not because of sampling issues, okay? Now, don't get frustrated, okay? There's more, right? There is also the sampling error. That is when you select your sample, you introduce the error. What kind of error could there be? There could be random sampling error. If you try to use a random sample, but you didn't get it, you're trying to do a random sample, but you didn't do it the random way, then you're introducing an error, okay? Or you have a systematic sampling error. That you use systematic sampling. We'll get to that. We'll talk about this in later chapters. You did not do it the right way. Then you're introducing systematic sampling. What's a systematic sampling? For example, on our campus, there is a SAC building, SAC, S-A-C, Student Activity Center, where the cafeteria is. Right? I often go there to get my lunch or dinner. And we have students from all schools, all colleges, all ages, and they go there to grab their meals, right? So you can say that's kind of like a central place for all students on campus. So if you go there to do the survey, let's say you stand at the door, you intercept every fifth person coming out, okay? You're collecting a systematic error, a systematic sample. And in that process, you could introduce error. Right? Sampling frame error. You chose the wrong sampling frame. You get to what sampling frame is. Because you have your whole population, you decide your sampling frame. From sampling frame, you draw your sample. And when you chose the frame, right, you introduce error. Very bad, right? All these are sampling errors. Then there's administrative error. Administrative error, right? You could have data processing error. You process data, introduce an error. There's a sample selection error. Select wrong samples. Interviewer error. The interviewer asks the wrong questions or did something bad, did something wrong. Okay. There's an interviewer cheating. Unfortunately, there is interviewer cheating. I actually have experienced that. Okay? And there's a measurement errors. See, all these all contribute to errors, total errors. Okay? Now that is something you try to avoid and something also you have to realize. Okay? And you have to acknowledge that in your paper. Okay? Source of errors in surveys. Random versus semantic sampling errors, right? Sampling error arising because of inadequacies of actual respondents to represent the population of interest. There is a systematic error, as I said, error resulting from some imperfect aspect of the research design. You didn't design it correctly. Okay? And the population parameter, we refer to some true value of phenomenon within a population. And there's a sample bias, a persistent tendency of the results of sample to deviate in one direction from the true value of the population parameter. That's sample bias. Okay? Respondent error, as I said, a category of sample bias resulting from some respondent actions such as lying or inaction. Lying, introduce error. Inaction, non-response error. Right? The two major categories: non-response error bias, like we said, response bias. Okay? Non-response errors. The statistical difference between survey that includes those who responded and those who failed to respond. Okay? Non-respondents, right? Sample members who are mistakenly not contacted or who refuse to provide input in research. How do you get rid of or eliminate non-respondent error? This is how I did in my doctoral dissertation. Okay, my dissertation, I surveyed the CEOs, presidents, vice presidents of companies, businesses. Those people are not, well known for their willingness to turn in to answer questionnaires. So it's hard. In the end, I think I got 240, so it's not too bad. Well, I passed my dissertation anyway. That's why I'm here. Okay, so when I did my survey, I sent out my invitation, even giving me incentive. I give me incentive, a free round trip airplane tickets anywhere between two cities, continental United States, anywhere two cities. I got my friend from travel agency who sold me this discounted ticket. So that's about $200 in value back then. And I sent out the first wave, and then I got some, I forgot how much, 150, 70 something. And then I sent out my second wave, I got about 70 more. So I got 240 total, right? So my second wave was respondents of 70. Think about that. The first round I got 170. Second round I got about 170, right? My second round of 70 could be, well, would be non-respondents had I not sent my second notice or invitation card. You follow me? Think through, okay? I sent my first one, 140. If I didn't send the second batch, a second notice or second invitation postcard, the 70 additional ones would not have answered my call, answered my request, right? So I treat the second batch of 70 as non-respondent to the first batch of respondents, right? Then I compare the two batches. First wave 140, 170, sorry, 170, and second wave 770. I compare the two waves and compare their certain features as to, whatever, I chose a few parameters and test for the difference. And it shows that there's no difference, meaning that the second batch and in the first batch and second batch, there's no difference, significant statistical difference between the two. Therefore, I can reasonably assure and tell my dissertation committee that I do not have a non-respondent error. Okay? They were happy with that. No context to the potential respondents who do not receive the request to participate in research. Okay? Refusals, they're unwilling to participate. That's normal. Okay? There is also self-selection bias. People who feel strongly about the subject are more likely to respond. Do you feel the same way? I do. Yeah, I do. Sometimes I see a survey, I say, oh, what's that about? I'm not even interested. I don't want to survey. I don't want to answer. But if it's something that I found interesting, I will participate. You probably do the same, right? That's called self-selection bias. Response bias, this bias that occurs when respondents either consciously or unconsciously answer questions with a certain slant that misrepresent the truth. Of course, we want the truth, so that's not good, right? That can include two broad categories: deliberate falsification, as we said, and unconscious misrepresentation. Okay? Then there's acquiescence bias, the tendency for respondents to try to agree with the viewpoint of a survey. They tend to agree with you. Some people just tend to agree with you all the time. Okay? That's a bias. Okay? There's extremity bias. Individuals tend to use extremes when responding. Interviewer bias, the presence of interviewer. The social desirability, people try to gain prestige or to appear in a different social role, often higher role. Then they're introducing social desirability bias. Okay? There's administrative error, okay, in execution, data processing, sample selection, interviewer error, interviewer cheating, okay, they filling in fake answers or falsifying questionnaire during the interview, and hire the right person. Okay. What can be done to reduce survey errors? Upon recognizing the problem, steps can be taken to reduce the survey errors. Future chapters will talk more about some ways to reduce errors through effective questionnaire and sampling design. We'll get to that later on, okay? Ways marketing researchers conduct survey interviews. You can use interactive survey approaches, right? Communications that allows spontaneous two-way interaction between the interviewer and the respondent. Right? There's non-interactive media that you can use, right? Two-way communication by which respondent can give answers to static questions that do not allow a dynamic dialogue. Right? It's not interactive. Okay? It's fine. You can use personal interviews. Okay, use face-to-face personal interviews and ask respondent to answer questions. Okay, you can get feedback. You can probe on complex answers. The length of interview could be longer, and the completeness of the questionnaire can be assured because you're doing that face-to-face. Right? There you can use the props and visual aids to help with the understanding. Okay? And there's a high participation rate, of course. You know, you're doing that. Okay? That's personal interviews. And there are disadvantages of personal interviews. There is a interviewer bias, remember, the presence of the interviewer. And there's no anonymity of the respondents. Some people may not want to answer the questions. The cost personal interviews are very expensive, as you can see. Okay. Other interview types, mall intercept. Go to mall, shopping mall, intercept people. You probably see that all the time in the mall. They say, hey, we have a drawing. If you participate in the survey, you can have a chance to win this big, nice, or antique cars, you know, or something of value, huge value. Right? Mall intercept. Okay? And door-to-door interviews. Door-to-door. Right? Door-to-door, you can go callbacks. Okay? To try to collect those samples members in the initial attempt. And use a CATI, C-A-T-I, that's a computer-assisted telephony interviews. You can use that. You've heard that a lot from your home numbers, cell numbers. Personal interviews from global considerations, the manner of conducting and the receptiveness to personal interviews varies dramatically around the world. Some people, they're okay with that. Some don't like that. Cultural norms play a role in selecting a survey approach. Right? You need to face both cultural and social norms when doing research that require business people to participate. Okay? Telephone interviews, landline phones. Okay? There's a do not call legislation. There's national do not call registry, so you cannot call some numbers if they're registered. Robocalls, phone call conducted by auto dialer using recorded voice messaging system. People may resent that. Ownership, coverage bias. Mobile phones. In this country, telemarketers toward mobile phone numbers is prohibited unless the user opts in. If they don't choose to opt in, you cannot call this mobile phones, right? Another thing is people nowadays move. They have the phones with them. The area code, area code mobile phone does not necessarily give any geographic meaning. Yeah, it used to be, if you have number says 917, you know it's from New York. Right? 770, you know it's from Atlanta, right? But not always the case nowadays. Okay, people have moved; they kept their old numbers. Okay. Phone interviews, characteristics, you know, you can have random digit dialing. You can use a landline versus a mobile phone, right? The speed is good, and the cost is low. There is no face-to-face contact. It's easy to get cooperation. You could have incentives to respond. You don't have the visual medium, though, of course. Okay. These are the examples of comparing, contrasting landline versus the mobile phones. You know, I'm not going through the slides, and I want you to read that in your textbook about differences between landline phones and mobile phones, as the sampling units, reaching the respondents, cooperation, restrictions, costs, and geography. Okay. And also technology, population, ownership, and expense. Okay, I'm going to read that. Surveys using self-administered questionnaire. This is probably most widely used, and I'm expecting you probably use the same one. Self-administered questionnaire. The respondents, right? Respondents, the survey with respondents take the responsibility for reading and answering the questions without having them stated orally by interviewer. They read it, they answer it, they give answer back to you. Okay, self-administered questionnaire. Okay, and there are all two options for self-administered questionnaire. There's electronic questionnaires or printed or paper questionnaires. From my experience, I know that most of my students uh, nowadays, more and more of them, before they use paper printed questionnaire and give to their friend, family, crewmates, classmates. Nowadays, I guess more, almost all of my students move their questionnaire online using software such as Qualtrics, the whole bunch of others. I'm sure you know, SurveyMonkey, Qualtrics, etc. Using electronic questionnaire, you can use email for the invitation. You can use website invitation. You can use a social networking software to invite. You can have interactive kiosks. You can use the smartphones, tablets. For printed or paper questionnaire, you can send by U.S. mail or snail mail. Use your courier, use inserts, your drop-offs, point of sales. You can see the cost comparison here. Okay. Mail questionnaires. There is a geographic flexibility. You can mail to only certain zip codes. The cost is the issue. Right? Respondent convenience is good, and respondent anonymity is good. It's anonymous. They just fill it up, put in a self-addressed, stamped envelope, and you receive it back. Okay. There's absence of interviewer, standardized questions, time is money. Okay. The length of questionnaire, you should have people spend about 10 minutes or less. It's ideally. Okay. Here are the cost of snail mail versus courier service. You can see a lot of the expenses on non-respondent costs. Okay, this overnight courier, the standard snail mail. Okay, you can see standard snail mail, and this is the cost. Okay, this is for the overnight, which is much more. Okay, response rates. What is response rate? That's the number of questionnaires returned and completed divided by the number of sample members. Okay, how many you send out, versus how many you get back. Okay, you can increase the response rate for mail surveys if you include a cover letter. You provide some incentives, like in my case, I provide a free round-trip ticket between any two cities in continental United States. And you can give advance notification. You can keep service sponsorship anonymous. You can keep mail questionnaire with codes. Right? They should know who has responded, and from the sample list. Okay. Email surveys. The survey requests distributed through email. You can use the survey in the body, survey as attachment, or survey as a link, hyperlink to a web-based survey. Okay, you guys can do either of one of them. Okay, sampling the email. Most people, I cannot go back now. Advantages and disadvantages of email surveys. Right? Advantages: speed, lower cost, faster turnaround and time, more flexibility. Okay, less manual processing, candid responses. But disadvantages are possible lack of anonymity, spam filters, problem with the successful deliveries. Okay, and internet surveys. Advantages: speed, cost, visual appeal, interactivity, Respondents' participation and cooperation. You can use crowdsourcing, crowdsourcing. You invite many people. Even a small percentage generates a useful sample. Accurate real-time data capture. You can use callbacks. Okay, you can personalize and flexible questionings. Respondents remain anonymous. Okay, that's the advantage of internet surveys. Improving response rate, click-through rate. We use click-through rate. That's a portion of potential respondents exposed to a hyperlink to a survey who actually click through to view the questionnaire, just like click-through rate in e-commerce. Okay. Incentives, increase response rates. If you provide them prepaid incentives, do better than promised incentives. Give them money first. Okay. Response rates increase with the size of incentive. You can imagine that, right? Can influence what type of person responds. Okay. You can maximize the response rate. Does not guarantee sample representativeness. Keep that in mind. Okay. Response quality. Right? Internet surveys are still in their infancy in many ways. Okay. Web-based surveys approaches produce data that is as good as traditional line phone surveys. Okay. Text message surveys have all the advantages of mobile phone surveys, including increased reach, but can only be used for respondents who have opted in with expressed consent. Otherwise, you cannot send them. Right? MMS message can include geographic displays or even short videos. Okay. Choose the appropriate survey approach. Right? You need to think about questions to determine the approach. Okay. Do you need is there assistant? Is assistance of the interviewer necessary? Right? Is assistance necessary? Are the respondents interested in the issues being investigated? Okay? Will cooperation be easily attained? Okay? How quickly is the information needed? And will the study require a long and complex questionnaire? Okay? And how large is the budget? Taking into consider all this experience. Right? You can use mixed mode surveys, more than one survey medium, and combine the data. That is fine. Okay? They show the example for different survey approaches. Basically, I'll go quickly over that. But for you, for your project, I need you to study this carefully, and also in preparation for your first test. Right? You can use door-to-door person interview, mall intercept, telephone interview, snail mail survey, or email or internet survey. The speed, moderate to fast, very fast, slow, and fastest email is fastest. Okay. Geographic flexibility, is limited in door-to-door, but high in others. Okay. Email is even worldwide. Right. Respondent cooperation. Okay. And versatility of questioning. Okay. Very good versatility with email, internet. Questionnaire length. Door-to-door, you can have long ones, but the other ones, you cannot have them too long. Item non-response rate is low in door-to-door, but could be higher in others. Okay. Possibility for respondent misunderstanding is low on door-to-door, more intercept because you're there, and could be high on internet. Okay. Degree of researcher interviewer influence response is high, and then is lower on email than others. Okay. It's also comparing the supervision of interviewer, the anonymity, and to ease of callback, follow-up, the cost, and special features. Okay. Pre-testing survey instrument. Pre-testing is a screening procedure that involves a trial run with group respondents to iron out any fundamental problems in the survey design. I need you guys to pre-test your questionnaire, your survey instrument. Okay. How do you do the pre-test? Test it with your classmate. Not this class, not in this class, because everyone knows, everyone involved, right? Ask your classmates in other classes, your old roommate, your dorm mate, your families, friends. Ask them to pretend to try the question there. See if they can understand and be able to answer the questions. They may say, "Gee, this one I don't even know what they're talking about." Well, this one is hard to decipher. I cannot comprehend it. I cannot do that. So you find a lot of things, from that. Okay, you can pre-test that. You benefit by spotting problems in the pre-test. There are three ways of pre-testing. Ask colleagues, right? Ask the manager. That's what's right? And the true pre-test or true run, or try run of the survey. Okay, you can do that. Okay. Ethical issues in survey research. There are many ethical issues in survey research. You need to respect their privacy, right to privacy. Okay. The use of deception. Okay. Be careful with that, deception. Respondents' right to be informed about the purpose of research. That's why you want to tell them in the first paragraph, in the introduction, tell them what this is about. You can say this is just for my university marketing research class, okay? And find some other reasons that you find this research interesting or meaningful, okay? And the need of confidentiality. You do not reveal any of the personal information. We only use aggregate information, okay? And the need for honesty in collecting data. I need you to be honest in collecting data and reporting the data. I don't care the results, outcome, what your hypothesis or your theory is supported or not. I don't care, right? But I do want you to have honest, truthful data collected, okay, and run and analyzed. The need of objectivity in collecting data, and objectivity, be truthful. Okay. A few words on the group project. I know you probably have started already as a group. Work on that business, company, or problem, or industry. Identify the problem. Identify business decision issues that you want to solve with marketing research, and try to come up with some research questions. I'll talk to you more about this as we go, okay? And establish your research objectives, and the rest we'll cover later on, okay? I think that's all I have for today, okay? Thank you, and I'll give you a review of the chapters in preparation for your first test that is coming. Thank you, guys. See you next time. Bye.